Hi everyone, today I'm just making a short video for you on how to edit using some of my new watercolour fine art textures. Now I've already gone and picked out two textures from this new pack and I've sent them into Photoshop, and so we'll go straight into Photoshop there. This is the image that I'm going to be working on, and I've already opened the two textures here and here. So the first thing we'll do is we'll just rotate those. So go to Image, Rotation, and that's that one rotated. And got the other one, Image, Rotation. There we go. And all I can do here is go Edit. Oh, hang on. Select all, then Edit, Copy, then go into the image that I'm going to edit and go Edit, Paste. Now, the reason I'm showing you this way is I had somebody asking the other day how I dragged my images across. You can easily go into your texture and you hover over the layer there, click on it, and just drag it over until you come up to the image that you want to drop it into, just this one, and drop it in there. And then you just drag it into place. But you can just do the way I showed you there, which is, I'll go over it again. You go to select all, and then you go to copy, and then you go to the image that you want, and you go paste, and then you've got your textures there. So what I'll do now is I'll switch these layers off, and we'll take a look at the first layer here. And see if there's anything that would like to do with it before we start with the textures. Now, the first thing that strikes me here is it's a little bit dark. I'm going to make a duplicate layer so that any changes I can either reduce the opacity of those, or I can alter just small parts of it if I want to. And a very quick way of lightening this up is going to Image Adjustments and Levels. And we can see here it's really quite dark. So if I drag this down, we don't want it all the way to the start here, otherwise it'll be too bright. But drag down to there, that's a whole lot better, isn't it? Now, another thing I want to do is the flower is very close to the edge, and I'm not very keen on that. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to enlarge this size of the image. And I'm going to do that by using the crop tool. And if you see up here, this tells you what happens to your image when you're cropping it. And you can have background, which is basically the background colour that you've got set in your colour palette down here. You can have generative expand, where you tell it what you want it to fill with, or content aware fill, which is what I'm going to choose, so that when I crop over and pull this over, it's going to fill this extra little area here with sort of an area that's very similar to what's running down here. So we'll just click and go ahead with that and see what Photoshop does. Just takes a few seconds to do. Oh, look, that's quite good. Now, a word of caution, if you're entering competitions, you might not want to do this with your images. Different competitions have different guidelines on what they allow. So if you're going to prepare an image for a competition, I would look at that first. So now I've prepared a little bit of space on that side. Excuse me. I think it needs just slightly more on this side as well. So we'll just do the same, but just a tiny amount, just to balance it a little bit better. And Photoshop usually does quite a good job at this. So another thing we're going to have to do now is we're going to have to make the textures fit. So we'll go on to these and right, just click onto that. We'll drag that over one side, and we'll just drag it over till it fits. And then we'll do the same with this one. So we've got this top tool here. I drag it over to one side and then I pull it over like this. Let's try and make it fit. So let's switch that one off and we'll work on the first one here. And to start with, I'm just going to go through the different blending modes just to see how it looks before we do anything else. And we can do that quite quickly, just to give us a basic idea of which one we might want to work with. Overlay looks good. Soft light is good, but it's quite a light one. For the majority of these, I do use overlay or soft light. So I'm going to pop it in soft light just for the moment. We'll switch that one off and we'll go to this one and see what looks best for this one as well. I quite like multiply. If that was reduced in opacity, it could look quite good. It also depends on the type of look you're going for. If you want something light and airy, or if you want something moody. Again, overlay looks really good there. Not over the flower, but just over the background. So does soft light. That's nice and subtle. That has a nice light effect. I might just start with soft light. So I'm going to do a layer mask on both of these. Switch them off and click on the previous layer. And then we're going to go up here. I want to use the object selection tool. So we'll go to select subject. You usually do a pretty good job of this. Now, as this subject it doesn't have sharp edges, so I'm probably not going to want sharp edges around where the texture is cut away from the flower. But what I'll do is just on the first, go to the top one, on the first layer, we'll just fill it with black and see how it looks. So let's switch it on. Let it fill with black, which is going to remove the texture from this layer. And we'll deselect that, and that's how that looks. It actually looks quite good, but around here you can see, if we zoom in, around here this isn't great. I would quite like to feather that a little bit. So choose a brush. We'll reduce the opacity right down, about 20%. The flow's reduced as well. Give it a bigger brush. Now what I'm going to do is paint the texture back in using the white so it comes over the top of that, just to get rid of this lighter line. So I don't have to be too accurate. You can see here, that's made a big difference, hasn't it? And even down the stalk, you can just gently paint over this and it'll blend in so much better. So just going around the edges gently. And it really does depend on your subject and the difference between that and the background, how much contrast there is, how soft or sharp the edges are. So you just have to judge that for yourself on how you do it. You don't have to do this, but I just like to go around and give it an extra little bit of blending. And it doesn't take long, as you can see. Don't even think these edges need anything doing really. But we'll just treat it all the same and we'll get a more consistent result there. A bit more there. Right, so that doesn't look too bad, does it? I mean, you could just leave it like that, really. Um, I think what I'm going to do actually, now that I've made that layer mask, I'm going to click on the bottom texture. I'm going to drag this layer mask into the bin, just delete it, and I'm going to duplicate this one that's on the top. So just go layer, duplicate layer. Just switch that one off because I'll save that for a minute or two and do it again. Layer, duplicate layer. Now, for one of these, I'm just going to drag this mask, just pull it down, click on it, pull it down to the next layer on the other texture, and click it off. And there it is, it's on the new texture. Now I can get rid of this layer, I can drag that down into the bin there. And we'll switch this one on, and there you go, it's got the layer mask applied. And that looks quite nice as well, actually, doesn't it? Surprisingly quite nice. Um, I do feel it needs a little bit more blending around here, and maybe around here. And over the stalk, over the stem, that green is quite bright. We might do something to alter that. I'm going to take my brush. We've got the white on, which means I'm going to be painting in the mask. Over here, you can see this harsh line, whereas the petal's nice and soft. And we've still got the low opacity there. So just going to scribble over this roughly. There you go, that's blended in really nicely. We'll do the same a little bit down this stalk. I'm going to go right over the stalk to help it blend in colour. Zoom out a little bit. Back to the brush tool. And sometimes if you just go over more with the colour than the texture, it just blends it together even better. And I think up this bit here, this petal area needs a little bit more blending because it's so soft again against that texture. We need to blend it. So back on with the brush tool. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of allergy going on there, so keep needing to clear my throat. There we go. I may as well check all around it and see how it looks. In for a penny and for a pound, they say. Up here, it needs a bit more blending, in my opinion. You can see how there was almost like a white sort of halo effect around the edge. And this is getting rid of that halo effect. It's just bringing in just enough texture to blend them together. There we go. And that bit of petal here, it's just ended up a blur, hasn't it? So we'll cover that over. Blend seamlessly. There we go. Simple as that. It's got the two layers on. They look quite nice. Although I feel like I'd like the texture layer around the outside to have a little bit more punch. So I'm going to create another layer. Well, we've got one up here, haven't we? We'll try it with this texture first. Actually, no, I won't. I'm going to drag that one out because we've changed the layer mask, haven't we? We'll go to that one, layer, duplicate layer. and I'm going to drag it up to the top of the layers. Now, so that's before. Now, what I want to do here to give it more punch, that has given it more punch, but that's far too bright around here. I'm going to go up to the darker ones. So dark and multiply. So this is what I'm on about, a little bit more punchiness. Colour burn. I think either one of these three might do at a reduced opacity, but also sometimes you find like vivid light, pin light. Some of these do the trick. No, we'll both multiply. We'll reduce the opacity right down, so say about, yeah, it does. So let's switch it on and off and see the difference. That's nice and bright before, isn't it? But adding this, not sure. Let's change it to colour burn. Nope. I think this will work if I remove some of the texture from around here. So that in the previous version, if I shut off that layer, switch that layer off, you can see the flower stands out from the texture a lot more. And when I put this one on, it covers up a bit too much. It's not so distinct against the background there. So I'm going to go back onto my layer mask. I'm going to choose this tool up here, just to the polygonal lasso tool. I'm going to feather it a large amount. Now, this is a high-res image. It's about 6,000 by 4,000 pixels. So I've got the feather set at 142. I think I'm going to put it about 300. So it's going to be feathered quite a lot. And just do a quick sort of, you could do this with a lasso tool, or you could even use this selection tool up here and just you can choose the square, the rectangular one, or the elliptical marquee tool, and you could just feather that by putting the amount up here. So there's lots of ways to do this, but that's now feathered by 300 pixels. And if I click back on here, go to edit, fill with black, and let's just deselect this. We'll see how we feel about that. So that has made it more punchy around the edges. So that's more subtle, a bit more punchy. It depends. Everybody has their own tastes, don't they? I'm going to reduce it down slightly. Yeah, I think that works best. And it's almost like a vignetting effect, isn't it? So I think that's pretty much it. I think that's the edit done as far as I'm concerned. So go to layer, flatten the image. I'm just going to check the levels on this first as well. It does look quite bright. So it's quite close here to the brightness, and it's quite bright up here, but it's within the limits there. So it's not going to blow your highlights if you get it printed. So yeah, that's today's edit done using the new watercolor fine art textures. Thanks very much. Bye.